I'm sick and tired of this Democratic Party bringing a pencil to a knife fight. We cannot be the only party that plays by the rules anymore. We've got to stand up and fight. We're not going to have a hand tied behind our back anymore. Let's grow a spine and get in this fight, Democrats.
DNC Chair Ken Martin, they're lighting a fire under Democrats to kick off the party's conference this week. Martin, who has had a rocky first 6 months in his tenure as chair, seemed to acknowledge and even echo some of the frustrations that voters had with the party following the last election. He laid out what he considers a coalition-building vision for the party.
$10 billion. That's how much was spent in 2024. $10 billion just on our side. And yet here we are, no majorities. I get it. People are pissed off. I'm pissed off. Americans are hungry for leaders. They're hungry for candidates who are on the side of working people. They're hungry for leaders who give a about their circumstances, and they're hungry for a government that gives people freedom, not fascism. To every American who is hungry for that kind of government, I invite you to join us.
But Martin's strong language to rally the party was eclipsed maybe by a moment that happened just a little bit before that, which did spark some outrage and confusion online when a party member got up on stage and read a land acknowledgement. Take a listen.
The DNC acknowledges and honors the Dakota Oyate, the Dakota people, who are the original stewards of the lands and waters of Minneapolis. The Dakota cared for the lands, lakes, and the Wapatonka, the Great River, the Mississippi River, for thousands of years before colonization. This land was not claimed or traded. It's a part of a history of broken treaties and promises. And in many ways, we still live in a system built to suppress Indigenous peoples' cultural and spiritual history.
Uh-oh. Some wokeness getting in there.
Well, I mean, I've actually much more of a problem with what Ken Martin said than the land acknowledgement. I mean, look, I think Indigenous people in this country were and continue to be treated terribly. If you want to do a land acknowledgement, do a land acknowledgement. What I have a problem with the Ken Martin thing on is it gets to a thing that always frustrates me, which is the assumption that if you present completely bog standard proposals, but you say pissed off in the middle of presenting them, that you're being radical and edgy and you're really seizing the public imagination, as opposed to just contriving some sort of sense of purportedly sort of visceral authenticity by using a very mild profanity.
He looked, mad as hell, angry enough to like kick a potted plant in blind fury.
Exactly, threw his pen down in a rage. So that stuff I find rather tiresome and contrived and very unconvincing. Look, the problem for the Democratic Party is it needs to decide what it stands for in policy terms, and then you can communicate those policy proposals in a more compelling way. But someone like Ken Martin, who's very much embedded in the establishment of the Democratic Party and has been even before ascending to his current position, suddenly deciding that he's so mad he has to use some bad words.
He can't even decide if he really wants this job.
Right.
Hasn't there been some reporting that he has mixed feelings about having taken it?
Yeah,
which is understandable, but
you did, so what are you going to do about it?
Somebody who wants to actually accomplish something.
Right.
And he is clearly not an ideological leader or is going to steer the party in one specific ideological direction or another, but which could be fine, but it doesn't also seem cognizant of the fact that, well, then he needs to play referee and allow these different factions of the party to duke it out and decide an ideological direction. That would be healthy for the party. I don't think they need to silence the left or silence the abundance people. They need to come together and decide don't silence the Zorons, don't silence the center. Figure out what the winning national message is going to be, and what the winning message will be in a couple key races around the country. But he's not really he doesn't talk about doing that. He doesn't talk about working through those things. Again, he talks about, well, now we're angry. Now we're really, you're gonna hear from us.
Right.
Strongly worded essay.
Exactly.
Coming today.
Yeah, and this goes to, I think, a problem that the Democratic Party is having generally at the moment, which is a focus from some on stylistic issues as if the stylistic issue is the problem that needs to be solved. That isn't, in fact, the problem. I mean, I don't subscribe, for example, to the view that Mamdani won the Democratic primary in New York because he's very good on TikTok. He happens to be good on TikTok, but he is proposing things that do have an appeal to a New York electorate. Would those things have an appeal to a Ohio electorate? Perhaps not. But the point is that he has an identifiable program or an identifiable agenda that he is therefore able to put forth with authenticity because he believes it. That's very different from saying, well, we're not outraged enough, I'm going to show outrage and then that'll solve the problem.
Right. Style and substance are both very important for making a successful political candidate. You can have one without the other, but if you have substance, or how should I put this? It's hard to have style if you don't have substance, because the style seems inauthentic.
Right.
Some people can pull it off. Gavin Newsom seems to have some amount of style, where I would say he has like less substance than a Zoran type. Zoran has substance and style. Some people have substance and don't have that. Jared Polis has terrific substance and is not a flashy he is not going to be a national crusading political figure because by his own admission, I'm not slamming the guy. It's like I'm just a dude. I'm just a normal person. So
Michael Bennett in Colorado is another example of that.
Yeah, we can point all sorts of people like that. The Democratic Party needs to figure out both. And I just don't know that Ken Martin's the guy.
No, I mean, look, it's a difficult job right now because you have a rather dispirited party that is fighting factionally between the left and the centre-left, the abundance people, whatever you want to term them. And they don't have very much power, in fact, by virtue of having, been in the minority in Congress and being out of the White House. So therefore, you have a base that is enraged, I would say rightfully so, by much of what Trump is doing, but you don't have a party that is in a position to stop it very much other than by mounting legal challenges or by doing a Newsom kind of trolling effort. That inherently makes chair of the DNC a kind of difficult job at the moment, but I agree, I don't think he has really impressed any of those factions particularly, right? He seems uncomfortable in the job and not someone who the party is really showing any signs of coalescing around.
I never realized this before, but Ken Martin looks like this guy from a popular internet meme reel thing, and if you will not know what I'm talking about, and very few people watching will, but if you know, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's this guy who just goes, nice, in a maybe Australian-ish accent. That's who Ken Martin looks like.
Okay.
So if you've
maybe we can switch him out with the meme guy and see how that works.
If you've seen it, tell me if you agree.
We have a lot more to talk about on Rising. Stay with us.